Hi, and welcome or welcome back to another weekly horoscope. I am so excited for this week. We have Venus finally leaving, being opposite Neptune. We have a new moon in Libra. Where do you have Libra in your chart? Because that is a major focus right now, especially this week with the new moon. We have the exact square between Jupiter and Chiron. The moon joins it. The sun is still in it until we begin Scorpio season, which happens, I believe, on Wednesday. We have Neptune going back into Pisces on Wednesday as well, early in the morning Wednesday, and then Scorpio season begins late in the evening on Wednesday. What else do we have going on? Um, we're going to have Mercury and Mars starting to harmonize with Jupiter and Saturn. We have the extension that we've had this past weekend of the Mercury and Mars conjunction in Scorpio. We're going to have the sun square Pluto when it goes into Scorpio, which I talked about in my end of the year transit update that I posted to my YouTube, I believe, a week ago for the end of 2025, the rest of the year's transits. I'm filming these now live in my membership community, which is only $15 a month. You get access to all my live streams. I do live classes in there every month. I do these weekly horoscopes in here every week. I'm saying in here because I'm doing it inside my membership. There's over 100 hours of classes I've taught, of beginner courses on astrology and human design inside my membership. So if you want to get personal chart questions answered by me while you're learning astrology and have community support around it, my membership is the place to do it. So, yeah, and it's only $15 a month. You get access to everything. What else do we have going on this week? I believe that is the majority of it. I'm really excited for Neptune to go back into Pisces. It will be the last revisitation of that transit for the rest of our lives. Nobody alive today is going to see Neptune back into Pisces again after it's done with its transit through Pisces this last time. They both, Saturn and Neptune, move officially back into Aries in February, at the end of February. Which I'll be talking about. I do a year ahead transit look of the astrology month to month, year ahead in my membership every January as well. I do it live. So come join if you want to catch that. I did it for 2025. The replay lives in my membership, and I'll be doing it for 2026 come as we get closer to the end of the year and the start of 2026. I'll be looking at really deeply the transits for the year ahead. Really excited for 2026 because there's just so much shifting and we're in the kind of liminal space of all of that right now. I myself am in a really liminal space of where I'm going to be living, where I'm going to be moving to. I still don't really have those answers yet. I've been going back and forth so many times about it, and I really just have to like choose and decide. And I think I have chosen Montana. But the North Node's in Pisces right now. Really, really hard to plan anything. We're all in a state of flow. We're all in a very liminal space right now, and that is for a reason, because there are things coming to fruition, coming in for us that we can't plan for, and we have to be open and inflow to receive those things that are better than what we could have expected, what we could have planned for. I feel like I've been talking about that in all of my content and all the videos I've been posting to YouTube lately, is just how much we are really in this flow state right now and how much it's necessary, how much it's needed as our whole world is transitioning and changing before our very eyes. Okay, let's get into, I'm kind of sad for Libra season to end, honestly. I love Libra season, but it's all needed. It's all a part of the process. It's fine. It's all divine, as I always say. So let's get into the horoscopes. We're going to start with Aries, as always. Okay, Aries Rising, what is going on between your home or your family, in your relationships, and you? Because this week is really more kind of triggering wounds around your sense of self, your identity, your appearance, maybe coming through your family, coming through your living situation, your home, and your relationships. But the focus is really on what foundations do you need or structures do you need in career. You might be actually like putting a lot of focus into your career to kind of maybe distract yourself from what's going on in all the other areas. But I do feel like this is going to create a positive shift for you, especially as we end the week with the moon in your 10th house. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. On Monday, we have the moon joining the square we've had between Jupiter and Chiron. So the Monday could be maybe an emotionally charged day, maybe Tuesday as well with this new moon that we have in Libra in your 7th house. It could ask you, because of all of these challenges and these conflicts between like you and your home, your family, your relationships, it could really, the new moon, ask you to set intentions around what you want within relationships moving forward that's different than what you have attracted before. We also have the Mars Mercury conjunction happening in your 8th house, asking you to get really clear on what subconscious themes need changed, especially as it relates to your mindset with resources, with money, maybe even. That is going to all kind of come to a head this week. And there might be some breakthroughs and shifts that maybe you didn't expect as we get further into the week, too. Wednesday and Thursday, that could bring about those emotional shifts, that clarity around maybe, again, what needs to change in your mindset, what stories you're telling yourself, as the moon is going to join Mars and Mercury in Scorpio. Also, they're all going to harmonize with Jupiter and Saturn. So it's like, what new belief systems, what new ways of being do you really need to discipline yourself with, commit yourself to? And with Neptune going back into your 12th house, it could kind of feel like, okay, how do I make sense of all of this like subconscious stuff that's happening? It could help you to really work with a practitioner if you need to see a healer or somebody this week. That this is kind of like the week to do it, to help you get that clarity. And then later on Wednesday, we have Scorpio season beginning in your 8th house, which is going to put the illumination on your resources, debt, taxes, things like that. Getting those things in order, maybe with the help of your community or your friends in some way, especially as the sun is going to challenge Pluto in your 11th house on Friday. Also on Friday, the moon moves into Sagittarius into your 9th house, opposes Uranus in your 3rd. There could be, because of everything that's like culminated this whole week, this big shift of your perspective of life and just really seeing things differently. This could trigger a kind of big epiphany, aha moment, breakthrough around all of the challenges you're facing and what to maybe do about them and how to move forward, so that they're not replaying over and over, like the old patterns aren't replaying over and over. Like you're actually you're finally like setting down, like, what is that, putting your foot down and saying no more. On Saturday, there could be something emotionally challenging with this new perspective of life that you're stepping into. And then maybe another further kind of subconscious thing brought up of like, if you skip meditation and you've been really disciplined with meditation and realizing like, oh, I can't skip it or else I'm just moody and this kind of thing, where it's like, it's really going to call into question your spiritual practices and how they're helping you step into a new perspective of life. Again, it's like with Uranus in your 3rd house now, it's like, retrograding through your 3rd house, what is changing about your daily routines that's going to help solidify these new mindset shifts. And then, like I said, later in the weekend, Saturday into Sunday, we have the moon moving into your 10th house, which is going to put that focus on your career, what you're doing, what you're building, structures and systems you're putting into place, to just kind of have more of a solid foundation maybe in what you're doing for work. So that is your week ahead, Aries. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Taurus Rising. We start the week off with the moon in Libra in your 6th house. There could be new intentions you're setting about your routine, your work, your healthy habits, maybe related to like what's being triggered in your subconscious or with your kind of day-to-day routines. Like, what is going on with y'all's communication or mindset or subconscious things that are coming up? Please let me know what's going on, because this is a lot of like there's a lot of tension and challenge on these areas of your life, like your mental health, your physical health, and also like where you're going, who you're talking to on a daily basis, and like the story that's going on behind the scenes contributing to all of that. We also on Monday have Mars on Mercury in your 7th house. There could be some really important, maybe uncomfortable conversation you have to have with somebody in your life. You know, the 7th house is relationships. We're not just talking romantic, we're talking every single relationship you have with somebody, whether it's acquaintance or a friend or a husband. Like, you know, there's gonna be something you have to really like have a conversation around to really address something that maybe has been shoved under the rug for too long, maybe related to these changes that are going on, or this conflict and challenges you're facing in your physical and mental health, and what's going on a daily basis for you. The new moon in Libra on Tuesday is going to be in your sixth house. So there could be that you setting intentions of, what do I need to change about my routines? What do I need to change about my daily habits? Things like that. To be more in alignment with where I want, like your goals, your long-term goals and your long-term visions, and kind of reassessing what you're doing to get you there, or maybe what has been holding you back, that you don't want to keep as a daily habit kind of thing. Then later on Tuesday, after the new moon, this could trigger a transformation in your career and maybe in your relationships too. Like, there's this challenge that you have to face emotionally with somebody in your life that maybe challenges your career or ability to show up in your career, or your reputation in some way. Then as we get into Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to have the moon moving over Mars and Mercury in Scorpio, harmonizing with Saturn and Jupiter. So it's really like, if you put off that conversation earlier in the week, as we end out the week, it's going to be time to have it. There's no more ignoring what has been ignored in your relationships or with a certain relationship in your life. You really have to like put your foot down and speak about it, talk about it, clear the air around it. That's the energy of it. And with Neptune back in your 11th house, you're kind of maybe feeling a little bit foggy about where you're headed long term. Like I was saying at the beginning of the video, like, for the overall update is, a lot of us are learning we need to flow. A lot of us are learning we can't really plan too far ahead right now. And so that might start to become a thing for you too, where it's like, wait, I thought I was going this way. Now I'm not sure. And it's kind of like, just focus on, how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel on what you're creating? The rest will come together. You could get emotional clarity around that on Thursday as the moon harmonizes with all the planets we have in late degrees water signs right now. It's kind of like we're all wrapping up this emotional chapter. A lot of things coming full circle. It's also Scorpio season now, and the sun is challenging Pluto in your 10th house. So there could be this illumination of relationships, or putting challenges on your career, or what kind of needs to be changed about your career. Then as we get into Friday, the moon moves into Sagittarius and opposes Uranus in your second house. You could get clarity around resources, shared resources, debt, taxes, inheritances, money in general, what you're doing with it and where it's going, how you're investing it. There could be this sudden kind of breakthrough and insight about that. And then as we get into the weekend, on Saturday, the moon in Sagittarius is going to challenge Saturn in your 11th house. There could be some challenge with like your resources and your long-term goals and visions. Again, it's like, if you had planned like, oh, I'm going to have this for retirement, it's kind of like these old paradigms are breaking down, and it's a really weird thing to be experiencing as a human being on the planet right now. The fact that all of these ways of life that we were all just so accustomed to are not going to be a thing anymore. And so there might be this kind of like emotional challenge on Saturday for you, Taurus, of like kind of coming to terms with that, but seeing it in a way that actually is beneficial to you. Like, I myself as an example, I like don't think I'm going to retire. That's because I don't want to, and I live my life like I'm retired because I love what I do. I don't consider it like work, and I'm not working and slaving myself away to like reach some whatever. And that's kind of like this energy is like, okay, well, I thought this is how my life was going to look, and I'm coming to terms with it's not how it's going to look, but it actually is better for me. Does that make sense? So that's kind of this energy on Saturday. And then Sunday, you might kind of, as the moon moves into Capricorn, be kind of restructuring your belief systems and be restructuring your perspective of life and how you're viewing things to accommodate this shift. So that's the week ahead for you, Taurus. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. All right, Gemini Rising. We start the week off with the new moon in your 5th house. What is going on in your dating, with your money, and in your like friendships, or with social media? or maybe like you're really being triggered to reevaluate your long-term goals and visions. Like, what is going on with all of that, Gemini? Let me know in the comments, because there's a lot of pressure and challenge between all of those areas of your life right now. The new moon in Libra that we have early on Tuesday is going to be in your fifth house of dating. So you might be setting intentions or embarking on some new chapter, beginning with dating, with romance, maybe even with your creative passions as well. You might have gotten some sudden clarity around that at the start of the week and how you want to go about that. Perfect timing for this new moon, although it is still challenging what's going on with your money and what's going on with your community or your long-term goals and visions. I feel like the way you thought your life was going to go um, is shifting, and that's kind of calling into question an identity that maybe that was attached to that. Does that make sense? And then later on Tuesday, the moon's going to move into Scorpio, into your sixth house, challenge Pluto in your ninth. This is a lot of changes to your belief system, and maybe your routine, your health, your physical health, and what you're doing to take care of yourself as it relates to that too. Like, maybe you thought you really need to be on your, I don't know, macros and whatever the hell. And you're realizing like, oh, I just need to like do what feels good, move my body in ways that feels good, eat in ways that feels good. And then the rest will kind of come. And it's triggering this perspective shift around your habits. Um, yeah, and you're getting a lot of mental clarity around how to take action on that in a way that's actually more aligned with you and your goals. As we get into Wednesday, the moon is harmonizing with the North Node. I think you're going to get a lot of clarity around your career and work life and what's going on with that, the changes you're making with all of that. Especially, Wednesday and Thursday kind of feels like a lot of that energy of these things just lining up in ways maybe you didn't expect. Getting a lot more clarity around what's going on and what you're changing, and your work maybe is actually propelling you into a better balance with work and with health. There's a lot of emotional clarity that comes around all of that and how to navigate it on Wednesday and Thursday. Then, as we get into Friday, the moon moves into Sagittarius, opposite Uranus in your first house. This could kind of put tension on an identity shift that's happening and that's occurring for you. Again, related to like this change in perspective, this change of your belief systems. A lot of maybe shadow work you've been doing, or changes to like your foundational belief systems. Maybe on Friday that might be triggered by somebody in your life emotionally. And then as we get further into the weekend on Saturday, the moon in Sagittarius is going to challenge Saturn in your 10th. So there might be this need to really like, you want to emotionally focus on relationships, but there's also this need to be really disciplined with what's going on in your career. There might be this kind of push and pull energy between your relationships and the work stuff that's changing for you. But also there could be this kind of healing of whatever wound has been triggered this whole month. There could be the sudden clearance of a wound, clearing of a wound, that kind of helps you to see things differently. I don't know if that makes sense. So let me know how that makes sense and shows up for you, Gemini. Then on Sunday, the moon moves into Capricorn, and it's kind of like you get this emotional drive to put some structures and systems into place about what's changing in your subconscious at a psychological level. A lot of like mental stuff this week for you, Gemini. So that is your week ahead. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Cancer Rising. We start the week off with the new moon in your fourth house. What is going on between like you and your home and your career? Because it just feels like there's a whole lot of like fuckery and like challenges and conflict between like your career and your home and you, and like how you've been wanting or have been expanding your sense of self, your identity. It really feels challenged by what's going on in your home and what's going on in your career. But I do think there's going to be clarity around that the first half of the week, as we do have that new moon on Tuesday in your fourth house of home. And then the moon is going to move into Scorpio and challenge Pluto in your eighth house. This could give you some emotional, it could be this emotional catalyst towards change at a subconscious level, maybe with your resources related to what's going on in your career or your work or your home in some way. It's like a whole lot of change. And you're kind of like propelled into that change. as we get further into the week. We also have a Mercury Mars conjunction in your fifth house, maybe creating a lot of inspiration for you to create and to maybe change your career based on what is creatively inspiring you right now instead of what you have been doing for work or for money. As we get into Wednesday, the moon kind of amplifies all of that. It is going to harmonize on Thursday with Saturn and Pisces and with Jupiter and Cancer. So I do feel like there will be this emotional momentum towards what you wanting to change, what you're wanting to change, and more of this feeling of harmony, despite the challenges that are going on between you and your career. It does feel like you get answers as we get into Thursday, and there is this momentum to like transform what's been going on for you. Then, as we get into later on Thursday and into Friday, the moon moves into Sagittarius, opposes Uranus. There could be this sudden kind of breakthrough energy, emotional inspiration through some sort of tension in your day to day work or your day to day like routine, physical health, mental health. Again, it's like you're being propelled into the shift of your mindset. You're really being propelled to see things differently, and it might propel you later in the week into these more aha moments, more epiphanies of like, oh, this is actually, I just need to do this, or I just need to switch up this. And then it'll all kind of realign, especially because now we have Scorpio season. I don't know if I've said this already. The sun in Scorpio is now challenging Pluto in your eighth house. So there's this pressure, this illumination of how your creativity needs to, you need to allow it to transform your resources, either because you're making money through whatever you've been doing as a hobby now, or there's this need to kind of put it out there into the world. Even though you thought it would just be a hobby, it could actually be your career. And there's this momentum to really step into that as we get later into the week, especially over Saturday, as the moon is going to challenge Saturn in your ninth house. Again, it's really going to call into question your belief systems around whatever this change is that you know you need to make. Maybe there's resistance around, and just this clarity, these answers are coming and coming as the week goes on, which I feel like a broken record saying over and over, but I do feel like we've been breadcrumbed with clarity this whole month, and it's kind of like all coming to fruition as we end out the month. Then on Sunday, the moon moves into your seventh house, and the emotional focus is on, okay, how can I structure my relationships to support these changes? What needs to change, or what do I really need to like put, speak up for myself, or boundaries need to be put in place around this so that I don't fall back to old patterns and old habits within how I interact with people. So that's the week I had for you, Cancer. I feel like that was really specific. So let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I will see you next week. Okay, Leo rising. We start the week off with the new moon in your third house of communication, also of what you're doing on a daily basis. That's going to be early on Tuesday. Before we have the new moon, we have the moon challenging Jupiter and challenging Chiron. So, what is going on that's really challenging or feels really challenging between like your day to day life, but also like your long term goals and visions, and maybe perspective of how you're viewing life? I feel like, excuse me, there's been a lot of triggers and a lot of wounds brought up around your belief systems and how you're viewing the world around you, maybe at a subconscious level. So, what's going on between all of those areas of your life for you? It feels like a lot, and it's going to be amplified by the new moon we have on Tuesday. Um, so there could be this emotional kind of clarity around how you need to approach all of this differently, and what intentions you need to set to have the new chapter, to better navigate all of these challenges and all of these conflicts in a way that's actually going to benefit you moving forward. And there might be this epiphany, aha moment around how all of it is kind of related to your belief systems and how you're viewing life. Maybe even like from childhood, or a memory surfaces that's like, oh, I didn't realize like this still affected me so much. Because Mars and Mercury are conjunct in your fourth house. Like there is this mental excavation happening in your kind of childhood traumas and belief systems and things that were passed down to you from your family line, maybe even that are showing up in your current home or current situation with family, etc. This is the week to get, to get that clarity around them, to move on fully from them, to shift it, to alchemize it. It's the Scorpio energy. As we get into Wednesday, the moon moves into Scorpio. Um, Actually moves into Scorpio on Tuesday and squares Pluto in your seventh house. There could be some tension emotionally between something in your home or with family and a relationship in your life. Is could be any kind of relationship, doesn't have to be romantic, but it's like whatever comes up emotionally in your home or family, it puts this pressure on you to transform how you're viewing relationships. And maybe ones that, again, new moon in Libra, setting intentions around what kind of people and relationships you want to have around you. Later on Wednesday, the sun moves into Scorpio and joins that square to Pluto after, well, not joins, but it squares Pluto after the moon does. So there's this illumination of like, oh, okay, here we go. Here's how I need to change and transform what I just realized was affecting me in ways I didn't before realize. More of that energy on Thursday as the moon's going to move over Mars and Mercury, and all of that kind of conjunction we have going on between the moon, Mars, and Mercury harmonizes with Jupiter and harmonizes with Saturn, and then harmonizes with Neptune, that is now back in your eighth house. There's this clarity of your inner world. There's this clarity of, again, what needs to be changed. And I feel like as we get more into the week, it just builds. This clarity builds of like what needs to transform in your inner world, and you get more answers around that and what to do about it. Whereas before, things might have felt muddy or things might have felt really challenging or unclear. All of a sudden, Thursday, there's this, oh, here we go. That might even continue into Friday as the moon moves into your fifth house and opposes Uranus in your 11th house. There could be this epiphany, though, around changes in your dating, your romance, your creativity in general, and how that relates to like what's changing about your long-term goals, visions, and community, or maybe how you're showing up on social media. Really, relationships as a whole. Maybe you moved and your relationships are changing, or you're just like attracting different people in your world. And it feels like the most of the change is kind of consolidated there because your inner world is changing, so who you're attracting is changing, and you're really gonna see that come to fruition this week if you haven't already. um then as we get into Saturday, the moon is going to challenge the nodes later on Saturday. um that's kind of this energy of what about my creative passions has been influencing my money in ways that I don't like. um there could be some changes to that, and this emotional drive to maybe change. It could also apply to dating or romance and money in some way. I don't know, that feels very specific, and like those two things don't go together. So let me know how that resonates, because that's what I'm getting. But to me, it doesn't make sense. But it probably will make sense to you. And then Sunday, there could be Saturday into Sunday, there could be something emotionally challenging with that is putting tension or conflict on your resources in some way. If you share resources, or maybe debt, inheritance, taxes, things like that, how the money's coming in and what you're doing with it, investments, there could be some trigger or some conflict between those two areas: your dating, your romance, your creative passions, and your resources. But I do feel like it's going to kind of propel you to get more disciplined about what is going on in your resources that you want to change, that supports your long-term goals and visions. Then later on Sunday, the moon moves into your sixth house into Capricorn, and it's time to really structure and put foundations and systems into place about all the clarity you received this past or this upcoming week. And that's what we had for you, Leo. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. All right, Virgo Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your second house in Libra. Um, Virgo, what has been going on between your money, your resources, and your community, or like long-term goals and visions? Because there's a lot of challenge between all of those areas. Illumination in your resources and your money, bringing up wounds and triggers with your, sharing resources, or with debt, with taxes, money you've borrowed, maybe even where you're where you're investing money, and like what's going on in your community or what's going on that needs to change or expand about your long-term goals and visions. Like all of those areas are kind of like fighting with each other right now. And it's going to kind of come to a head on Tuesday as we have the new moon in Libra in your second house. What intentions do you want to set moving forward? What kind of relationship do you want to have with money that is a new beginning, that is kind of removed from these wounds and these triggers that you've had around money and resources in the past? Like there's all this new things, this new opportunity for new forming for you with this new moon. And it's like, what is all of this, all these challenges and all these conflicts showing you that you want to change? And how can you really step into that more fully? There's also probably a need to really express yourself in new ways, maybe transform your inner world, your inner communication, how you're talking to yourself about everything, as Mars and Mercury are moving together in your third house. Then later on Tuesday, we have the moon move into Scorpio into your third house, challenge Pluto in your sixth. This could relate to work in some way. Maybe you have to like charge more for what you're doing, or you have to really set boundaries with clients who are asking too much of you, that kind of thing. It's like there's this emotional pressure to really speak up for yourself, to have a transformation that's going to be more long-term beneficial for you, what you're doing in work, your energy, and work-life balance, as well as your money. Then later on Wednesday, we have Scorpio season beginning in your third house. It's going to challenge Pluto as well. So there's going to be this like, I can't ignore this anymore. I have to really change how I'm going about all of this, in a way that really does benefit your long-term vision for yourself, your money, your work, and your life. Then on Thursday, the moon joins Mars and Mercury in Scorpio, all of which are harmonizing with Saturn in your seventh house and Jupiter in your 11th. It feels like there's this emotional clarity around all of this that's been building all week. And maybe the kind of emotional drive to finally speak up is there if you haven't already by this time. And maybe set some boundaries with the people in your life so that it's not all like feeling very chaotic and like you don't have a grip on anything. As we get into Friday, the moon moves into Sagittarius, opposes Uranus in your 10th house. There could be some sudden change in your home or with family or something. Like this emotional epiphany around home, family, maybe related to the chaos that's been happening in your career or what's changing about your career. It feels like the two Aries are putting tension on one another, though. Maybe you're like suddenly moving and you're like, oh shit, well, I have to kind of, there's things I have to do in my career, but I have to move. And it's like, how do we balance all of it? So that might feel like a little conflicting on Friday. And then as we get into Saturday, the moon's going to put pressure on yourself and what's changing and shifting about your identity and your sense of self, maybe even your appearance, and how that's directly affecting your relationships and maybe a new chapter that you're stepping into with relationships or where you're wanting to head with relationships moving forward. That also feels emotionally challenged on Sunday as the moon is going to challenge Saturn in your seventh house. There could be some conversation you have to have with somebody in your life to really set boundaries or again speak up for yourself in these ways that you're you're learning to embody and that are becoming a little bit easier for you if you have maybe like hidden yourself or your needs boundaries before. There's a lot of pressure to really speak up for your needs and yourself and your boundaries this week and really integrate that. And then later on Sunday, the moon's going to move into your fifth house, putting this emotional focus on structuring your creative passions and ventures, maybe even romance. What systems, structures, foundations do you need to have in place to make the most of all these ways that your life is changing and you're kind of restructuring everything because of that. So that's the week for you, Virgo. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Libra Rising, what is going on between you, your career, and your relationships? Because it feels like there's just a whole lot of conflict between wanting to expand in your career, triggers that are coming up through your relationships. And this is any relationship. This is not just romantic. This is like you dealing with other people is kind of bringing up wounds or triggers for you that maybe also is illuminating something about your identity or your sense of self that you want to change. So let me know what's going on in all those areas for you right now, because it feels like a lot of challenge and a lot of just like butting heads. that those different areas of your life are doing. Then on Tuesday, we have the new moon in your first house. This is an setting intentions and a new beginning around stepping into that new identity or this new appearance, sense of self, embodying yourself maybe in ways that you haven't before and you're stepping into now. That's really what this new moon in your first house is giving to me. It is also applying tension to everything I just mentioned. Love that that rhymed. Your relationships, your career, and maybe the energy is really like, okay, how do I ground this in? How do I make changes necessary to me in order to not repeat these past patterns and have them plague me over and over and over again? Right. You also have a Mars Mercury conjunction in your second house. So, what's changing about your beliefs with money? What do you need to take action on that you're realizing what you want to change about money? That's all going to be very supported this week as well, especially as we get later into Tuesday and the moon's going to move into your second house, challenging Pluto in your fifth. There might be this conflict or these tensions between an emotional drive and your money, and again, what you want to change about it, and what's going on in your creative passions or pursuits, or maybe even dating, and in kind of feeling like the two areas of your life are being challenged to again really propel you and catalyze you into some sort of transformation there. Then as we get in further into Wednesday, the sun moves into your second house, putting an illumination on your money and what needs to transform with your money, as it also challenges Pluto in your fifth house, and maybe what creative pursuits you need to kind of reassess or just make some adjustments to further support what you're bringing in from them monetarily. Also on Thursday, the moon joins Mars and Mercury in your second house. So this is big emotional drive to change your mindset with money and your resources. Maybe call in resources in ways that you've maybe been struggling to have in order to support yourself with some home situation, or just do what you really want to do with work moving forward. It's like, okay, now, no, I'm like done. I'm done doing it this way. I'm going to do it this way now. And there's really the momentum to change that. And it's supported. It's like once you just start moving in that direction, your work kind of will line up to support it. It's all about taking the leap. And I feel like you're going to be really propelled into taking the leap on Thursday. Then Friday, the moon moves into Sagittarius, into your third house, and opposes Uranus in your ninth. Again, there could be this really big momentum towards changing your belief system as it relates to all of the things that you're recalibrating about your life to line up with what you actually want and what you're realizing you want. And that is changing. It's like these epiphanies are just coming at, it's like every day this week, it's like something new you realize you want to do differently or you need to change. And that once you do it, just kind of like boop, 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 it's like recalibrates to support you in those changes. That is especially true Saturday into Sunday, as we're going to have later on Saturday, the moon challenging Saturn in your sixth house. So again, it's like, what belief systems do you really need to be disciplined with to have these changes in your work, to have this new chapter and this new journey in your work that's emerging for you. And then on Sunday, the moon moves into your fourth house, putting the emotional focus on your home, your foundation, your roots, and maybe what systems or structures you need in place in order to have these changes be rooted on a solid foundation that's not going to crumble. So that's the week ahead for you, Libra. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I will see you next week. Okay, Scorpio Rising, we start the week off with the new moon in Libra in your 12th house of the subconscious, of what's hidden. This might be you really needing to set intentions with like what you need to change about your inner world, or what you're realizing you want to change about your inner world. There might be a lot of clarity you received at the beginning of the week around that, leading up to this new moon that is on Tuesday. As Venus is now like away from being opposite Neptune, there's a lot of clarity around what's shifting in your inner world, especially as it relates to your values and your relationships. Also, because we have the Mars Mercury conjunction in your first house, it's like, what about you is changing, your mindset, and how are you externalizing that? What are you taking inspired action on that you're changing and alchemizing about you, yourself, your sense of identity? On Tuesday, later on Tuesday, the moon moves into your first house and there's this emotional renewal. The moon is going to challenge Pluto in your fourth. So it could be related to what's going on in your home or what's changing about your home and your family. There is a lot of pressure to catalyze yourself, again, to really embody these emotional changes that are happening, maybe because of things that are being triggered in your home or your family life. Then later, as we get into Wednesday, the moon continues to move through your first house. We have the Scorpio season beginning on Wednesday. And then as we get into Thursday, the moon is going to move over Mars and Mercury in your first house. Again, really propelling you into this emotional drive to change something about you, your sense of self, your identity, how you're presenting yourself to the world. And with the sun now in your first house, there's an illumination of you and what changes are being challenged through your home, through your family, or maybe your inner world. Again, like what subconscious things are coming up for you to change the foundations of your belief systems and how like it's restructuring your inner world so that your external world changes to match. That's this energy. And I do feel all of those changes will be supported, especially on Thursday. There might be a lot of emotional clarity around that and how to move forward. As we get into Friday, the moon moves into your second house. There could be a sudden change with money. There could be this sudden emotional drive to change your belief systems about money in order to change your experience of money and to call in more resources for whatever you're doing or whatever changes you are making to yourself and to your life. That's going to be further pressured on Saturday as the moon is going to challenge the north and south node. Maybe there's a new creative venture that you're sharing with people that you want to make you money. And it's kind of like, okay, well, I need to restructure my belief systems so that I actually believe this is possible for me. And I'm not just spinning my wheels, taking the action when I don't actually believe it's possible. Does that make sense? Especially Saturday into Sunday, as the moon is going to challenge Saturn in your fifth house. The message is to be disciplined with what you're doing and sharing creatively because it is going to bring in what you want. And it just don't get discouraged by the numbers or don't get discouraged by things looking like they're not working because they are. And you might really start to see that as we get later into the week. Then later on Sunday, the moon moves into your third house, again, calling for you to really kind of restructure the systems and foundations you have in place as it relates to your belief systems and how that's shaping your experience with the external world around you. Does that make sense? So that is the week ahead for you, Scorpio. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Sagittarius rising. We start the week off with the moon in Libra in your 11th house. You might get more clarity around your long term goals and visions, maybe even as it relates to relationships. There could have been some relationship that you were maybe focused on, or a creative project you were focused on that maybe you were like, actually, I want to go about it differently now. You're getting more clarity around that, right? And it's kind of like this fog has been lifted. Maybe there was tension around it, and now this fog has been lifted and you finally see it clearly. And with the new moon in Libra on Tuesday, excuse me, in your 11th house, it's what new intentions or beginnings are you setting with your long-term goals and visions as it relates to your relationship to your community, how you're showing up on social media. All of those things are getting this reevaluation so that you plant seeds for how you want it to be versus it just being how it is and you feeling like you have no control over it. It's like, no, what do you actually want in this area of your life and how can you set intentions to plant seeds to make it happen? But that being said, there is tension with that and your resources maybe, or kind of just feeling like you are supported in the ways you want to be, especially as it relates to dating. There might have been a lot of triggers or wounds being brought up with dating or with romance or with creativity and how you're sharing your passions with the world. That is kind of putting pressure on that too. Does that make sense? Then later on Tuesday, we have the moon moving into Scorpio. It's going to challenge Pluto in your third. It's really giving you a glimpse into your inner world and what subconscious themes. Maybe you're doing a lot of healing of your subconscious themes or what things from childhood that you didn't realize are still affecting you and how you're showing up in the world. And maybe even bringing in certain relationships to be mirrored to you, the state of your inner world, so that you do the subconscious healing to change it. That's big energy for this upcoming week. is what about your subconscious, your inner world needs restructuring and needs changing. There's a lot of pressure on you to make those changes this week, especially as we get later on Wednesday into Thursday. The sun moves into your 12th house, putting illumination on your subconscious and a focus on your subconscious, but also challenging Pluto in your third, and putting pressure and adding challenges maybe to your day-to-day life or your internal belief systems and communication, your thought processes, in order to change those patterns at a really subconscious foundational level. Maybe you're feeling more empowered with how you communicate because of that as well. Also on Thursday, the moon joins Mercury and Mars in your 12th house. There could be this emotional release of your subconscious, a subconscious wound, maybe related to like what's going on in your family. I mean, there's a lot of just internal work happening for you. And yeah, with these retrogrades back into your 4th house, it's like you're realizing these ways that your maybe childhood programming or things have really affected you. And there's this momentum and this emotional drive to shift everything. Then as we get into Friday, the moon moves into your 1st house, emotional renewal. Yay. Could be a sudden emotional change in your relationships related to these shifts in your identity that are stemming from the shifts in your subconscious that are happening. As the moon opposes Uranus in your 7th house, there could be, like I said, a positive shift in your relationships related to you and feeling maybe emotionally renewed or like healed, just feeling like all of the healing work you've been doing. Yeah, and that could trigger some changes in direction with your home or with family or with your work in some way as well, and relationships too, especially on Saturday. Then as we get into Sunday, the moon in your 1st house is going to challenge Saturn in your 4th. Again, there could be this emotional tension between you, the changes you made in you, and maybe dealing with home or with family in some way. As we get later into Sunday, the moon moves into your 2nd house, could put the emotional focus on structuring your finances to maybe support these changes you're making at your internal world. And just maybe what structures, what systems, foundations you need in place to support everything and how it's all kind of been recalibrated. So that's the week I have for you, Sagittarius. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Capricorn Rising, we start the week off with the moon in your 10th house. There's an emotional focus on your career, on your work. Capricorn, what is going on between your home, your family, your relationships, and your career? It feels like, this isn't just romantic relationships. This is like all the people that you deal with. There maybe is like a lot of expansion there, but also it's bringing up maybe challenging stuff with home or with family or triggers from childhood that maybe is related to career, or like all of those areas are just kind of like fighting each other right now. Relationships don't feel super harmonious, and it feels like it's bringing up deep stuff within your home or within your family. But I do feel, as we have the new moon on Tuesday in your 10th house, there could be this aha moment of what you want to change about your career, and setting new intentions to do so, setting new intentions to have this new beginning, a new chapter with what's going on in your career. And then later on Tuesday, the moon moves into your 11th house, challenges Pluto in your 2nd house. There could be this emotional drive to change your long-term goals and visions related to like what's going on with money and what's maybe changing about money for you, or just your relationship with money might be propelling you to change your goal and your vision for yourself and for your future. Then as we get into Wednesday, later on Wednesday, we're going to have Scorpio season beginning in your 11th house, also putting pressure on your money and to transform. This is kind of like a catalyst to really change what's going on with your money and as it relates to your long-term goals. You might have gotten more clarity around changing your long-term goals or community or friendships, and there's this catalyst energy to really take action on it. It's not making too much sense to my mind, so let me know how that resonates. Because it feels like the biggest energy of the middle of this week, especially on Thursday, as we're going to have the moon move over Mars in Mercury in your 11th house, maybe giving you some emotional clarity about what's going on in your community or your long-term goals, and how maybe your day-to-day routine is either hindering that or supporting that and making necessary changes. Maybe there's people you want to be around more that are better for you and your long-term goals than who you have been spending time around, and you're really realizing that in a major way. And this might give you more clarity on what you want to do to make money as well. That maybe is changing. Thursday into Friday, the moon moves into Sagittarius into your 12th house. There could be an epiphany around your belief systems related to all of that, but it could put tension on your kind of day-to-day routine or what you do for work or to take care of your health and things like that. As we get into the weekend, later on Saturday, the moon is going to challenge Saturn in your third house. You could have to have like a, a serious conversation with somebody. Maybe Saturday into Sunday, you have to have like a conversation you maybe didn't want to have, or yeah, there's something that's like you wanna kind of, you need time to process something, but you also have to like set a boundary that you're like not sure how to really navigate the two things because they're conflicting with one another. And then as we get into Sunday, the moon moves into your first house. There's an emotional renewal. It feels like you're kind of picking up the pieces and restructuring everything that you've gotten clarity around that's happened during the week and how you want to maybe make necessary changes to your life to support all the changes that are happening. Does that make sense? I feel like that wasn't super clear for you this week, Capricorn. There's a lot going on, and it's kind of like you just have to take it one day at a time for how to navigate it. Um, so yeah, that's the energy of your week ahead. Let me know how it resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay. Okay, Aquarius Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your ninth house. There's an emotional focus on your belief systems, your perspective of life. What is going on with that and your work, as well as your maybe communication styles, your day to day feels kind of hectic. It feels maybe like your day to day is really triggering. What's going on that? What's going on with that between your work, your health, maybe long distance travel? There's a lot of challenges between all of those areas of your life. So let me know what's going on for you because it feels really conflicting. We have the new moon in your ninth house on Tuesday. There is a focus on setting intentions and planting seeds for a new beginning as it relates to your perspective of life and how you're viewing everything. Maybe the relationships that are either supporting you in this change that you're making to your view of life, or the ones that are not, and really kind of cleaning, like trimming the fat, getting maybe rid of, or just spending less time around people who don't feel like they're supporting where you're headed with everything. Later on Tuesday, the moon moves into your 10th house, putting the emotional focus on uh, career, but also challenging something about you and the transformation that's happening with you. There could be this big like conflict in your career that really challenges you to transform something about yourself. uh doesn't feel super comfortable. And then later on Wednesday, we have the sun squaring Pluto as it moves into your 10th house. So there's an further illumination of what's going on in your career, your reputation, your public image, and how it's maybe putting pressure on you to change your identity, your appearance, how you're presenting yourself to the world. Also on Thursday, the moon moves over Mercury and Mars in your 10th house. So there's this emotional drive to share. Maybe you're like feeling inspired to create a lot of content or share something, a really big project, or really speak into existence something that is been alchemizing, changing, transforming about your career and how you're making money. Like there's so much focus on how you're making money, your career, your work, and what's changing about all of those things as it relates to your belief systems that play into all of those things also. Could be an epiphany around that on Friday, early on Friday, as the moon moves into Sagittarius, opposes Uranus in your 5th house. This could shake up your creative drive. This could change something or give you some clarity about what needs to change in your long-term goals and visions, and how you're maybe have been going about life that hasn't been supporting where you are wanting to go and needing to make necessary adjustments. to see the change you want to see in your life. Later on Saturday, the moon challenges Saturn in your second house. There could be, again, this emotional drive to really be more disciplined with something about your money or with how your long-term goals and your belief systems about what's possible for you are playing into that, and what needs to maybe be reevaluated and restructured so that those long-term goals you have with money and what you want for your life are supported. Then as we get into Sunday, the moon moves into your 12th house. You might need some time alone to reflect, to process things, and to maybe restructure what you realized you need to change, and have systems and structures in place that are going to support those changes long term. So that's the week ahead for you, Aquarius. So let me know how that resonates, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Pisces rising. We start the week off with the moon in your 8th house. There's a big emotional focus on your resources, maybe paying debt, taxes, investments. As we're going to have the new moon on Tuesday in your 8th house, there's this big energy of what intentions do you want to set with your resources, or how you're investing money, how you're spending money. There's a lot going on with your money. Putting challenges on maybe a creative passion or romance or dating in some way. So what is going on in those areas of life for you, Pisces? Let me know in the comments, because there's a lot of challenge between money and romance or creativity, and your resources. But on Tuesday, the focus is really on like, okay, what do I need to clean up my resources, have better relationship with what I'm doing with my money, how it's coming in and what I'm doing with it, and getting that clarity you need to have that new beginning, a new relationship with your, I hate to say resources again, but that's the energy. Then later on Tuesday, the moon moves into your 9th house. This could propel you into a big perspective of life shift, maybe subconscious beliefs around money, wounds or triggers you're realizing that were passed down to you about money, and needing to kind of make some necessary shifts there, either through journaling or talking it out with somebody. That's really the big focus. Tuesday, there's an emotional focus on shifting your mindset. Also later on Wednesday, as the sun is moving into your 9th house too and challenging Pluto in your 12th, there's this big momentum towards changing a belief system that maybe was like fundamental and you didn't realize it was affecting you in all the ways that it has been. And there could be a lot of like epiphanies as we get later into the week around how to make those shifts and view everything differently and view things better, view everything differently in a way that really supports you moving forward and what you want to achieve. As we get into Thursday, the moon joins Mars and Mercury in your 9th house, putting the emotional pressure and drive on shifting your mindset, as it relates to you, maybe even shifting your identity, how you're viewing yourself, how you're presenting yourself as it relates to all of that, and what's going on with your creative projects and how you're expanding them. As we get into Friday, there could be an epiphany around your work, your career, maybe something about a house or with home or with family too, as the moon is going to oppose Uranus. But really, as we get into the weekend, the emotional focus is on your career and maybe making those changes that you realized you want to make, based on changing your belief systems about what's possible for you. Does that make sense? It feels like a lot of mindset restructuring. And then as we get into the weekend, it's like taking the inspired action you received because you did the mindset work. Excuse me. But on Saturday and into Sunday, there could be something emotionally challenging in your career that puts this pressure on you to kind of mature or grow up in ways that maybe we're still kind of like you've been stepping into a new identity, maturing your sense of self. And on Saturday into Sunday, there could be something emotionally in your career, reputation that puts pressure on you to do so. But then as we get into Sunday, there's the focus moves emotionally into your 11th house as the moon moves into Capricorn. And you are realizing what you need to do in order to restructure things in your life and have a new system and foundation in place to make the most of all of the changes you're realizing you want to make. And that clarity has come really like every day this week. It's like you're realizing something new. And then as we get into Sunday, it's like, okay, here's how I kind of structure it. Here's how I plan for it, that kind of thing. So that's the week ahead for you, Pisces. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, y'all, that is the week ahead. Like I keep saying, feel like we're being breadcrumbed and breadcrumbed and breadcrumbed with clarity. But the end of November or the end of the end of October and I guess the end of November, but really the end of October and through November feels really good for moving forward with everything we're realizing about our lives that we want to shift and we want to change and getting those answers and acting on them. And it begins this week. So let me know how it shows up for you and how everything goes. I'd love to hear from you all in the comments and in my DMs. So let me know. Come join my membership if you want to have an intimate conversation about what's going on for you and your chart. And I answer questions in there about your personal chart. So come join the membership. We have those conversations inside. And yeah, I'll see you next week if I don't see you in my membership. Bye.